will call to order the November 2nd, 3rd Planning Commission meeting for Maple Plain, and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we'll start with the agenda. Entertain any changes or a motion to approve it?
I don't see any additions. I'd move to make a motion to approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is the minutes for the September 1 meeting. Any thoughts, changes, interpretations, spell check?
Did they have,
Pardon me?
was this copy correct from
Grammar check.
Well, I guess I would ask our city administrator. I saw a version of the minutes from Councilmember John Fay that was a little bit different than what I see here. I think this looks fine, but I'm just wondering, maybe Grant has a further explanation.
They look different?
They do. As I recall, there was some other text in there that I had to kind of correct for Councilmember Fay, where it said that we had approved the internally lit signs, or in our recommendation, which was not the case.
Are we talking about the September minutes or the October minutes?
September.
On the agenda tonight is for the October 6th minutes?
I meant October, the meeting where we talked about the sign ordinance, which was
Oh,
last month, right?
right.
Yeah, October.
October.
Anyway, these are the official ones. Do
Yeah,
we
it
have
says,
any-
yeah, looks like it's
What
correct
do you
here.
think John Fay was?
He
Oh,
wanted to
it's
get, just from me, the chair, just a little bit further elaboration on the discussion. He was about to go into, I think, a workshop session with the council, and just wanted to have more background on what was discussed. So I just sent him back information on, just a little bit more elaboration on our discussion and our thought process.
Yeah, these look correct, how we voted, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, is a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next, actually, I didn't print out the first page here, so next is the public hearing.
COP amendment.
Mr. Coltis.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chair, Commissioners. This item coming before you tonight is a request for a conditional use permit to allow co-location of new wireless antennas to be placed on the existing tower located at 115 Industrial Street. T-Mobile, who's the applicant in this case, and SMJ International LLC, that's the owner of the tower, is requesting the city to consider the application for the co-location. As you know, this property is located south of the Industrial Street, north of Willow. There are two existing cellular antenna facilities located on the subject property, and the remainder of the property is utilized by an existing industrial business. It is zoned I-industrial by the city, and it is guided by the comprehensive plan as industrial. The overall parcel is 4.5 acres, or approximately 4.5 acres, and as noted, there are two wireless antenna facilities located on the property. What I'm referring to now as a west tower and an east tower, they're really almost right next to each other. So for all practical purposes, when you look at them, you almost don't even notice that there's two towers. because of their proximity and how close they are. But in this particular case, the application before us tonight relates to the West Tower. As you'll recall, at our last Planning Commission meeting, we had a similar consideration for the West Tower where one of the existing wireless facilities was asking for a generator. In this particular case, T-Mobile is now asking for consideration to co-locate on this tower, which would be adding a new bank of wireless antennas to this tower. We've talked before that there's a number of conditional use permits that date back to the 1990s. We've amended many of those conditional use permits over the years. This would be a new conditional use permit to allow this bank of antennas. But it's also, if you want to think about it, somewhat of an amendment because the tower is already in place.
Existing.
So with this new proposal, T-Mobile is asking for 6 new wireless antennas and related mounting and radio equipment to be located on the tower. And then also the applicant is proposing to install the associated ground-mounted equipment inside of the existing lease area or the fenced area at the base of the tower. This tower is 266 feet in height. There are 3 existing banks of antenna located at elevations of 248, 204, and 156. The proposed bank of antennas for the new antennas would be located at an elevation of 175. So really it'd be located kind of in between 2 existing banks. You can see that in the staff report called out. You can kind of see how that fits. What you don't see on the diagram, but it's on other diagrams, they didn't put it on theirs, there is a bank of antennas at the top of this tower if you look. And so I noted that in the report, but their existing survey, if you will, doesn't pick that up. A lot of times they kind of cut these when they're doing some of these existing elevations of sorts. But with that said, wireless towers and associated antennas are permitted as conditional use within the I Industrial Zoning District. And we do have standards relating to granting a conditional use permit. We have criteria established within the ordinance. That criteria is all spelled out in the report. I can touch on any of it if needed. The proposed bank, cabling, and ground equipment would be located in a manner that would be consistent with what's on a tower. We've talked about these towers quite a bit. They're probably some of the best located towers in just terms of being kind of back and out of the way of most residential properties, noting there is a agricultural residential property across Willow just to the south. But for most practical purposes, the towers kind of blend into the area, the equipment blends in, and so adding a new bank of antennas I think is going to be difficult to identify unless you're really studying that tower to understand that they're going to be putting new antennas. So with that, the criteria for granting a conditional use permit is that it doesn't impact adjacent or surrounding properties' reasonable use and enjoyment. I mean, that's kind of our basis for what we talk about. In this particular case, adding another bank of antennas to the existing tower is something that I think is consistent with the city's ordinance. We note that we promote co-location when possible rather than construction of a new tower, so this does fit into that as well. And then in looking at, just overall tower base equipment proposed, they're proposing in their base or at the base of the tower to have a new cabinet and concrete pad. So it's not a fully enclosed building, but it is a cabinet. They'd be obtaining a 10 by 15 lease area. And then from that lease area at the base of the tower, it's just east of the tower, they would have an ice bridge, which is a common mechanism to go from kind of their electrical and facility or equipment cabinets to the base of the tower, and then cabling goes up from there. So it comes out of their cabinets in what's called an ice bridge, which protects the cables and the equipment as it goes across, and then it would go up to the antennas on the tower. So with that, we did just approve minor modification to the base of the tower with the new generator. This would be now a new concrete pad with 2 new kind of electrical component cabinets, and then the ice bridge going over. And then they'd also have an electrical control panel on the base. If you look at the base of the tower, and I mean I do include a couple pictures in the report, but if you were to drive by or go over and look at it, you would see just the quantity and extent of now the buildings that we have. There's 2 buildings at the base of this tower, and then this concrete pad with the equipment. I mean, it's fairly there's a lot of stuff.
Dense.
Yeah, it's dense. There's a lot of stuff. I was trying to think of the word. It's going to be hard to decipher what this is versus what everything else is. So, with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions relating to this particular request. This is consistent with what we're seeing in terms of either expansion of facilities or the addition of new antennas relating to just kind of adding capacity to their systems. I just came from the Watertown Planning Commission where I had a Verizon request. They're already on the tower, but they were adding a bunch of panels to the tower because the same thing. Everybody's doing this right now. Cellular's becoming, more and more demanding, and so we just keep seeing more and more of this. I think what I like is that we're clustering onto the same tower rather than popping up new towers. I think we're going to get to a point though where these towers can't support more. This one seems like it would be, about at its capacity. I know when you get below a certain elevation, and I don't know that 156 is the next lower tier. It seems like there's probably still some capacity on this tower, and certainly the tower to the east of this only has the 2 users now. I think there's probably capacity on that tower. Either way, we get a third-party structural analysis that's signed and stamped by a structural engineer confirming that the tower can in fact support what's being proposed. I'll note this tower, just from my experience and knowledge, the kind of metal lattice or ladder type towers like this, they have like crazy strength. I mean, these are really pretty robust structures. So I would imagine that we could maybe even see one a tier below at some point. And then just with cellular technologies, what we know of kind of the new bands, they need to have closer spacing between towers to kind of broaden the ability to carry data, and handle that demand. But they're lower elevations, right? I don't know. Some of you were around when we did the microcell ordinance where we were talking about regulating that you could put cellular communication device on streetlights and stop signs, and but that technology I think is going to continue to evolve, and we may see that you put more facilities on some of these existing towers, but that's consistent with what we're trying to do. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mark. Well, we also want to open up the public hearing. We'll do that now at 6:16. You, sir, are you here for this particular item?
I am.
And do you have anything you'd like to add?
Not a lot. I noticed that there was a comment about an LED light.
Yeah, I had one comment on the report. I noted in the plans that there was an LED light shown on the cabinet, and I don't know what that was.
If you could just state your name and who you work for and so forth as an introduction as well.
Andy Bobritsky, and I'm with SMJ International.
Thank you.
The light, I looked up everywhere I could find on that and got back to T-Mobile and everybody else, and they finally got back to me today with a picture and explanation. It's an LED light that they just turn on if they have to go there at night. It's on a timer. There's no specs for it because they'll go to the local, whatever the contractor's working, he'll go to his supply house and get an LED light. This is a photo of one at an existing site. You can have it, you can pass it around. But that's the timer switch, I'm sorry. Yeah, so they just get there, they'll turn it on, and rather than working with flashlights.
I see. So
Okay.
it's not
That's probably safer.
It's not
it's
consistent.
not regular scheduled
We-
illumination.
We would potentially allow this. I mean, all lighting for us requires to be cut off, meaning you can't see the light source. It looks like this light could be made vertical 90 degrees and still
Yeah, I think
do
that
what
one,
you
I'm not
want.
sure exactly where this photo was taken. It's at one of their sites.
Well,
So-
we can note that. So that light looks like it's on an articulating, just like little.
Just
kinda
make it aim
screw. Yeah.
further down than.
It would have to be cut off, meaning it can't be angled. It has to be this.
Put a
There,
shroud on.
it's kind of one of these.
But Mark, if they're repairing something, maybe they need to have that flexibility.
They would just need to mount it high enough that
Higher?
it would be. Yeah,
Okay.
it's going to cast plenty of light down.
Okay.
And to the extent possible, have it angled inward and not outwards towards the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean that's we just don't want it to be seen. I ironically, I got a call this week from somebody across the street from that industrial area complaining about a light on one of the buildings. I haven't found it yet, but people do look out their windows, and if they see a light, even if it's like a couple hundred yards away, they. If it takes away from you being able to see the sky, that's why we have the ordinances to make sure they're cut off. So, but given
Like I
what
said,
that
this would
is,
be on a timer.
Yeah.
They even sent the switch, a picture of the switch. So when he's out there working, he's going to set the timer for a half hour, hour, whatever he thinks is going to be there. That way he doesn't have to forget to turn it off. So that was all I had.
All right.
Do you have any questions for me?
I have a question about the pad. We keep on adding stuff to this area. I've not inspected it myself, but I just want to make sure that we're not, getting too crowded in there with stuff, generators and other cabinets. How much room is there in there for this? And there's like two competing companies, right? So is everyone playing nice together and?
Oh, yeah.
There's
Well,
more
there's
there.
three.
There's more companies than that.
yeah, we have T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T on this tower,
The tower is actually owned by American Tower Company, American Tower Corporation.
and you lease from them.
We don't lease from them. We actually just represent them at.
Okay.
We do their site acquisition work, their
see.
hearings. We'll do some of their drawings. We don't do the installations. I'm trying to see if I can. These drawings are so hard to read.
Well, I mean, so on the base, there is a diagram of kind of the lease area,
Yes, I was just.
and so it looks like that lease area is 80 by 40.
Oh, that's huge. I mean,
And so, I mean, that is a fairly large lease area. But with that said, I mean, now this the third space at the base of that tower, so you're starting to run out of room within that lease area. You guys represent both. American Tower owns both towers.
I
no?
don't know if both of those are.
I'd have to go
theirs.
back and look, but
They sometimes do that if they have enough space and the one tower is coming up to capacity. They'll build the second tower right next to it, just so you don't have a tower, just to keep them, like you said, in the same area.
Keep the impact condensed.
there's not a lot. Like this is kind of one of the few spaces. There's a spot on the north side of that tower, one on the south, two shelters, and then the generator just went to the west of that lower southern shelter, and now with this 10 by 15 pad, there's just not a lot left, but they could always, negotiate additional lease space from the owner.
And they've done that in the past, where if somebody else comes along, the tower has space, but the ground doesn't, they'll expand they'll talk to the next door neighbor or whomever and lease some more area. But knowing, like you said, there's 3 or 4 carriers on there. It's pretty full. Capacity-wise, there's still, like you were explaining on the tower, there is more capacity on the structure itself. And the self-supports can be strengthened as well. Like, when they do a study, if they say there's a certain section of legs is weak, they can add supports to that section, and then it can handle more capacity,
I
so.
see. Good to know. Any other questions?
Mm-mm.
I don't see any issue from my standpoint. Do we want to, does anybody else have any comments, or do we make a motion?
that Wi-Fi is included.
Well, so the city has some terms with T-Mobile in their own on the tower, on our tower. T-Mobile is also on our tower, so I don't know what that lease looks like from what the city has, but kind of interesting that they're locating twice. But
Well, I'll close the public hearing then at 6:23. Yeah, it makes good sense to co-locate on the same antenna, and visual impact should be basically non-existent.
Minimal.
Yeah, there's a lot of vegetation around there too. It's pretty, like, it's barely a road. Like the only people that drive by there would be the two houses, and especially now the yardways is closed.
I see it from my house. It's there.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah.
And I have T-Mobile as a provider, so
Yeah.
I'm in.
You might be too close to this.
I might be
though.
too close.
Yeah.
Is this,
As a paying bill
5G
payer.
or is this 6G?
No, I think these antennas said 5. I think that's what I read on the.
Yeah.
Are there any, is there any old equipment that needs to come down?
So the 3G equipment, this is a new installation, so this can all be new current. What we've seen, and I think almost all of the ones on here, because we've done, I think, 3 this year, all of the 3G, 3G's gone, that bandwidth is gone now. So a lot of the companies have, if they hadn't replaced it, they've replaced it now. And we're seeing the 4L, or the LTE C band and CDMA bands, right? Those are the kind of current technology. Now we've seen the 5G antennas deployed pretty broadly. So, I mean, I think that's where, I think we're getting closer, but I mean, we just keep getting more and more. I don't know, we've done 3 applications. I think that this is our 3rd this year. This is our 4th. Yeah, and I think, I'm over a dozen, just me personally doing these with cities I represent this year. I mean, it's like the thing right now. Everybody's swapping.
Yeah.
But
It's
the
like the
3G
norm for you.
expired. Yeah, these are super exciting. But the 3G bandwidth is, I know just personally, like, people, family members and stuff who, those little microcell units that you'd get from like your carrier to kind of boost your signal at home, a lot of those were 3G based. Or a lot of the phone lines, if you have phone over VoIP or voice over internet type protocols, a lot of those were 3G, and all that's gone now. You had to get rid of it this year and upgrade, but.
Well, you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the proposal with the condition that the lighting meets the city requirements.
And I did, just to note, if I could, there is a condition that they had to provide us with lighting, and I'll take that condition and make sure in the resolution we'll clarify that the light, whatever that LED is, has to be cut off and 90 degrees. Or
Yeah.
so it's a good condition.
Good.
Do you want to include the recommended conditions?
Yeah. Yep, yeah, so I'll recommend approval with the conditions as noted.
Conditional use permit.
Yep. Second?
Second?
I'll second it.
Very good. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to abstain just because I'm a T-Mobile customer. That's all. Because I don't feel it's ethical for me to vote yay or nay, since it's related to my network. So
Fair enough.
there we go.
Yeah.
Any other reports from commissioners?
I would like to make a comment or something. In July, we talked to Annie and we sent on to the council that we would like to look at the sign ordinance for the downtown area to make it more business friendly. At which point the council sent it back to us. We looked at it and voted. You guys voted. Oh, I did not. You voted. We don't want business in Maple Plain. We don't want to look at the sign ordinance. We love it the way it is. And you passed it.
I would say that's not exactly what we voted. We voted
No,
to
not exactly,
maintain it,
but pretty close.
recommended another path to make it easier.
We did not really review it. We did not change anything. And we just said to Annie, we don't care. Have you seen the building up for sale? And who will move out next? We are not business friendly. And I've made that point, and you don't get it. You don't give a rip whether we have business or not.
Well, I don't know if that's entirely true, Mardell. I think the feeling of many of the commissioners was that the ordinance was not business unfriendly. That businesses, knowing what the ordinance was, would make, you know.
We have no businesses. And we will not get any businesses.
Because of the signed ordinance? I think there are
If
more
we
factors.
continue to be as unfriendly.
We also decided that we wanted to have, we recommended a design review committee so that we could make it easier for businesses to go through the
And I
process.
did vote for that.
So I think it's not necessarily fair to say that we're not business friendly. I don't know how
Right.
others feel.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm not sure where that is. Pardon?
I was just going to say, I reflect what you're saying. I don't think we were business unfriendly. There is a vision related to the design of Maple Plain. And that vision was brought up both community-wide with a select group of people involved, and also people who are employed with the city of Maple Plain, and then as well as all kinds of other designers involved. And yes, it's been a couple of, maybe a decade since the design has been in place. But I think we were standing true to that design guideline, which is what people of Maple Plain would ideally like to see happen with their city. Yes, it hasn't taken a very quick path to get there, but these things do not happen overnight. These things do not change a year later or 2 years later. You need to get the right people in the right place.
All
So-
we've done is lose.
And sometimes you have to lose a lot in order to win.
I think there's many other factors
But
as
yeah.
to why there hasn't been business development in Maple Plain. The design guidelines set out a vision for what we want the city to, the vision for the aesthetic of the city. I think once that kind of takes hold, as you alluded, that it might even attract businesses. They see that this is really a quaint, cute little town and a place where I want to move my business to. Other businesses that have come in the last several years have accommodated the signed ordinance. And they're
And
doing
people
fine.
don't like them. The ones that don't need a conditional use. They don't like them. I gave you that report.
Did you talk to business owners?
On that one, no.
Okay. So you talked to community members, though?
Certainly.
People, right?
People.
So to say that when you say they don't like them, that refers to the people of Maple Plain or certain people of Maple Plain. It does not relate to the business owner. They were just doing what is
As
in
they-
accordance with
as
the ordinance.
they drove through and as they looked, they have no idea what an ordinance is. These are people off
Mhm.
the street with no background.
Right. Yeah, and I reflected last time in October that some of the signs that exist right now need to be updated, but we're not going to force business owners. I'd say that would be more of a business limiting action.
That would be unfriendly.
To say, you need to update your sign because it's not in accordance with our ordinance,
But
even though it's,
they didn't like the ones, like they didn't like the gooseneck, and that's legal.
mhm.
So,
But, Mardell, you were part of the design, I mean, you were part of those meetings that happened
I
when the
was very involved with the design
But the
team.
gooseneck, I do remember that, because I'm like, okay, what's that really mean? I know what it means now, but that was one of the lights that we said we wanted.
I know, but once you see it, then you don't like it. You know, it's on paper, and that's why I challenged you all to go out and look at the signs in Maple
I
Plain.
Mhm.
Mhm.
When the people looked at the ones that aren't on the John Quinlivan building, they loved them. And those are not legal. And that's what I thought we were going to change. To at least, if they're looking at Highway 12, they need them.
I think the Quinlivan building was part of an evolution, or it evolved from that. We sort of made some concessions and agreements that it wouldn't go beyond, and that building is what it is. As we move on, I think that adhering to a design standard for a community, and I believe that we're also beginning to see the fruits of that 15 years later, which is but isn't a long time for these things to happen. You see Haven Homes and the number of things that are happening. We had a apartment complex come in and begin to want to talk about bringing in that kind of investment at $1,800, $1,900, $2,000 a month rents, which is a huge thing for the community. But I would challenge, again, it's sort of disheartening that we're against businesses and businesses being successful. I think the contrary is, by holding to those design standards, by giving stable footing for investment into the community, that they understand what it's going to be. It's not going to change monthly. It's not going to change every 3 months based on a whim or an idea or an opinion. But we're going to hold tight to this is actually more business friendly than just diluting, which would be the only other alternative, would be to dilute the sign ordinance to what?
Hodgepodge?
Hodgepodge. To what? Opinion. You can line up 100 people in this room, and I guarantee you, how many opinions? They're all going to have opinions on it. I think that holding to the hard work that was done, and the negotiation, and the conversation, and the sharing of ideas, and the listening ideas, I really think that the sign ordinance allows us to be even more business friendly, because we're creating a standard, not hodgepodge. It's hard to do. We can't make, and it's not going to work for everybody. It just isn't. Anything isn't going to work for everybody. The aspirin, I thought I was going to take this, that's not going to work for everybody, right? It's just not going to work for everybody. But I think the concession is, sit down and talk about it. Let's figure out a way to discuss further sign opportunities. Is really saying, we'd love to help Annie come to some resolution that really works great for her within the sign ordinance. But the point is, I think we're in a real danger if we do dilute the ordinance, because then I don't think we have anything. And I believe that we are really business-friendly by sticking to those standards, which is the hardest way to go about it, actually. I think taking a stand and sticking to it is harder than just throwing it to the wind. But I respect your thoughts and opinions, and it's helpful.
I think everyone here wants to be
But I
business
think
friendly
you're
as
looking
well.
at, if it's Highway 12 businesses, they're not looking for downtown business. They're looking, Main Street is different than Highway 12. Just go out there at night, or this afternoon, or anytime. They are not Annie is not trying to attract Main Street business.
Then
She
she
is
has
trying
her.
to attract Highway 12, and it's way different.
I think I would challenge the thought that I believe that she can attract business within our current sign ordinance.
With a little more
Yeah,
creativity.
especially
perhaps.
with all the roads construction going on
Right.
and all the yellow or orange
Well,
cones.
there is that. But I would challenge and say, I think she can attract business and become, accomplish those things within our sign ordinance. Our sign ordinance is not preventing her from having a successful business or attracting business.
Right.
Are you able to reference what business this is?
American Family.
American Family.
American Family,
Family.
the new building that they built
On the
And-
west side,
on the west end of town.
from
Yeah.
where
By the
they,
fire
from their
station?
former location, it's a box down from there.
Yeah. So high level of the sign ordinance, are you able to, is it just they need to be internally lit or
They can't be internally lit.
they can't?
If she wants an internally lit sign.
Yeah. So we're avoiding the internally lit.
Right. And the one
Bring
claim
that up.
she had was that it was required by American Family Insurance that she needed to have an internally lit sign. And it was also part of kind of a collaboration to be part of, I don't remember, I don't recall what the grouping was, but in order to put their hand into just like a cluster of them, they needed to have the same compliances just to maintain consistency. And yeah, that's one thing she said was that American Family Insurance required her to have an internally lit sign. So then our approval was, or at least our suggestion was, we need a letter from corporate saying that. And it was, I think what came back was that corporate said, no, we don't require her to have that sign. We can work with you, work with the city.
And I think also, at that time when we were discussing it, we also had mentioned that there were other American Family signage that
Yep.
didn't have the light thing. And I know this was before your time, hon, but even before Annie came, and Annie's been here X amount of years, and before that, her dad was, okay? So it's a long family tradition of being in town here. And one of the questions, I think Mark brought it up, was if we said yes to Annie, would be against the kind of the guidelines what we have already in place.
We have design
But
guidelines.
the car shop across the street had come to the city and asked for a brighter light or signage or something that I remember, and that was thumbs down. Am I right, Carissa?
Essentially.
Okay. So, and they're, from what I remember, they're pretty
not
much
in-
right across the street from me, or kitty corner from each other.
Yep.
To
So
say,
they are
so
not
say yes, one,
downtown.
Well, no, they're not, neither of them are downtown, they're on the highway.
Yes.
Neither of them are, but
She's
if we
judged.
said no to the car dealership, why should we say yes to kitty corner across the street?
I think the co-op also has a situation where we've allowed that one sign to stay, but it cannot be lit
Okay.
on the facing to the east.
Is it freestanding signs that are the issue?
Building
Or
mounted.
signs upon the building, actual building?
Internally lit signs,
Internally
either
lit building.
freestanding
Yeah,
or
right. Yeah.
attached or whatever.
We should get you a copy of the design guidelines.
Yeah.
Along with the
Yeah.
ordinances.
Well, so, I mean, just on the topic, it's not on tonight's agenda, it's gonna come back at a future, but planning commission's recommendation went to council and council sent it back to planning commission. So,
So we'll be getting it back.
so you're gonna get it back again. There's probably a couple ways to look at it. One would be, they did like the idea of the committee. There was talk that maybe the recommendation back is that the committee is created and the committee dives in further. That's one way to maybe try to see if there's, some change that allows internal illumination, not necessarily that it would allow what Ann wanted, right? Because there's talk about if you were going to allow internal illumination, would there be other design criteria like light color, font, size, right? Some of those factors may play in, and it might not just be that her sign in and of itself would be allowed, or a sign similar to that would be allowed. But essentially, council on a 3-2 vote. It's a 3-2 doesn't, or 3 members of council believe that there should be some internal illumination, and 2 don't. Now, planning commission doesn't have to recommend. Ultimately, council can write their own ordinance or decide themselves, but they did want to ask planning to look at changing that. Again, understanding that 3 council members really want internal illumination to be permitted in some format. So that will be something that we'll bring back.
Was that, can you give us any more information or details on that, what they were looking for from us, or is it something that we should just?
They wanted
tune into the
they wanted to
YouTube?
find a way to allow and sign without a variance.
What was the vote the
Right.
first time? I thought they were.
3-2.
But the first time it came back, when we recommended looking at the design guidelines, and we added the language, and ultimately, was that the vote you're talking about, was 3-2?
Well,
Or did
no, so
Was it-
there was a 3-2 vote to recommend it back to, so there was two members of council wanted to deny the variance and just be done, and 3 said no, they wanted to keep the variance open and send it back to planning commission for review of the ordinance.
And that was their most recent vote? Or was that the vote
That was the
after
vote
our
in-
meeting?
That was the vote in July that
Okay.
sent it back to you.
All right.
And now there wasn't an official vote on any
Okay.
kind.
Yeah.
It was just workshop, send it back, which they can do
Okay.
that without an official action, but.
And it's just so I understand, they're sending it back to us to alter our opinion?
Well, I mean,
Or what-
they
what-
can't make you
what is the
have an
pur-
opinion, right?
I know.
They can say, we really
But what
want
is
this
the pur-
ordinance and fix
What is the
it.
purpose? I mean, I did.
Yeah,
just- at a
they
certain point, you
really,
just
they
need
really
to
want to
cut to the
encourage you to
chase.
see if there's a way that you could come up with a standard that would be acceptable that allows internally illuminated lights.
Well,
And
we-
part of what we talked about was maybe that is maybe there's a sign committee that focuses specifically on that.
Right.
Because there could be quite a bit of time and other energy spent on that. And then bring a recommendation back to council that would maybe change that, or maybe not, or maybe it's a new standard, I don't know.
But I think we talked more about like not letting, and I don't know the right technology words, but not letting it be too bright that it couldn't be, So I think some of those things should be on it.
Yeah, and we did, if you remember the first meeting we had, we kind of gave a draft of different options for, lumens or illumination, hours, dark hours, things like that.
Number
That-
of colors.
Yeah, we talked about that as one of the things. Now, if you get into color conversations, like I think we talked, if it's white, it's not, that wouldn't allow what we have on the Gordon James building or on
Yeah,
the.
they wouldn't be business friendly.
Yeah,
Right.
so there's other considerations, but we're gonna talk more and try to figure out what comes back and what does that look like, but, that was that just happened a week and a half, or 2 weeks or whatever, week and a half.
Is the workshop recorded? Video?
Yeah. No.
Workshop's not recorded.
Workshop.
Are there minutes?
Yeah.
I'd like to see a copy of those minutes. It'd be interesting. So that will come back to us at a subsequent meeting here.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks for the update on that. Any other updates or reports?
Any more updates about the apartment complex? I wasn't here last month, so I don't know if they are proceeding or not. The one that wanted to go.
Do you have any-
Yeah, we haven't heard any more, I haven't heard any more from the architect or the owner on that after concept. I mean, council gave them, I
Okay.
think,
The land sold.
favorable,
Yeah.
favorable feedback, so,
Okay.
there's a lot of things at play though with apartments right now, just interest rates have kind of thrown everybody to kind of reconfigure what that means and costs and
Yeah.
pro formas and things, so I'm imagining, but.
So
we
Mark,
haven't
is
heard
that the
back.
same with the
That's
On
townhouses
Baker
That's-
Independence.
Park Road?
yeah,
They're
Oh.
working
The
through
villas.
watershed approval
Okay.
and, making changes based on our final plat comments.
okay.
So I haven't seen the revised plans back, and I haven't heard that they're not moving. I don't know if you heard that they're not. I mean, we've been working towards trying to get them
Mm-hmm. Okay.
kind of all complete.
I have an independence question for you.
Yeah.
There's talk of a new thing down off from Perkinsville
A new development.
or Perkins. Perkins?
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
so we
sure.
Yep.
started
Perkinsville,
yeah.
Will the sewer hook into Medina or Maple Plain?
So the sewer will hook into Independence, which currently flows into into Medina for that property. So the city of Independence has sewer that services South Lakeshore Drive and then Perkinsville Road. And that sewer flows to County Road 19 and ties into the Medina sewer at County Road 19 in Perkinsville. So they'll tap into that existing sewer line.
And I understand that is a go?
Well, it was approved by the City Council of Independence for a preliminary plat, subject to a comprehensive plan amendment and Medina allowing the additional units to be added to the sewer. And it's, they're proposing 28 single-family homes on that property.
According to their site, 10 of them are sold already.
Yeah, I mean, they're way out over their skis on that project, but at their risk. They have, got a preliminary grading permit
Yeah,
and.
they're moving dirt, it looks like, out there.
Yeah, I mean, they're
Mhm.
full
They're
bore
doing
moving
stuff.
stuff, so, which is, they have an agreement, they got approval to
Yeah.
do grading, but, it's all secured in case it doesn't go, the city can restore that.
Mhm.
Those are low-income housing, right?
Yeah, 1 acre.
1 acre, 1.5 million.
It depends who you ask,
Yeah.
because I have heard that it's low income by some residents in the area.
It's all relative.
1 acre
I
lots are
see.
small for
Yeah.
some people,
Oh,
which. yeah.
Independence, yeah,
Depends who
mostly
you ask,
farmland.
I've heard that.
Well, lastly, I'd like to welcome Nick to our commission here.
Thank you.
Nice to have you, and nice to have a full team.
Full team. It's
Full
been a
team.
How long
while.
has it been?
It's been a long time. Very long time.
I don't.
Very long time.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It was full my first meeting.
I
Yeah.
have,
Oh, that's
and
right.
Mardell
That's
has,
right.
Yeah.
but
Our-
it's been quite a while.
Serenity Village was a full team,
Yeah, and then it wasn't.
Then Michelle was.
and then it wasn't, yeah. Immediately following, it was
Yeah.
not.
So what is your background?
So I I currently work, or well, I'm from Lakeville.
Okay.
Went to North Dakota State, graduated 2014. Worked for BASF Construction Chemicals for 3.5 years, so kind of have some understanding of the construction world. And then currently I'm with United Healthcare, selling small business health insurance. Been doing that for about 4.5 years now. So me and my wife, we just moved to Maple Plain here from Maple Grove. We have a dog and expecting a child, right? Our first child. So definitely,
Congratulations.
thank you. Putting down some roots out west here. Definitely fits our lifestyle with the lakes and the parks. So excited to be down here.
Yeah, great, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, that's great.
Great to have you.
So why did you choose Maple Plain? Was it, you may have answered this already, but was there a draw to the city, and what was that?
It was, so we looked kind of Lake Sarah and Loretto, like that area. Didn't want to be all the way in Rockford because Highway 55, I just did not like, we didn't like the drive when we saw a few
Mhm.
houses. Maple Grove's getting too busy. We were kind of on the western suburb. We were a mile east of Mama G's, so right on the Maple Grove, Corcoran border. That is really blowing up. And then we actually saw a house in Delano. Really liked the drive out here. So I work in Minnetonka. My wife works at West End, St. Louis
Okay.
Park. And the drive has just been so much better to get to work in the morning. I have a boat, so I like to fish. I fish Independence. I fish Minnetonka. It's nice having those close by. And it, so it cut off about 5 minutes for us to get to work. My parents still live in Lakeville, so cut off about 10 minutes on that front. Our friends live out in Mound, Minnetrista, Orono, so kind of, it was the best of all worlds. Small town feel, but still accessible to kind of the city and work and things that we like to do.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that live in Maple Plain share the same, ideas of what amenities are.
Yeah. I mean, the only bummer is there's no Target 5 minutes away like what we used to have, but you know what, the
There's a lot
trade-offs.
of good with that, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of good with that.
Yeah,
The
you
trade-off.
drive by one on the way to and from work, I suppose.
Yeah,
You can
yep.
manage that.
Or 3.
And we're small town, like bar hopping people, so it's nice to have the options that are all around here, instead of the chain ones that were up in Maple Grove. So that is nice.
Nice.
Great, well,
Cool.
I think that's all
Thank
we
you.
have for agenda, so entertain any motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn this wonderful meeting until next month.
Yeah.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?